Hello everyone, it is so good to see you. I have returned from PAX West, where we had a bunch of appointments, meetings with a bunch of people, got to catch up with a bunch of friends, and we played a lot of games. Many of the impressions of games we played on the show floor will be going up on the channel if they're not already uploaded by this time. They are impressions from games that we played across both PAX West and Gamescom, so keep on the lookout for those. But this one in particular, I wanted to talk about Pac-Man World 2. Now, I know we already talked about it a little bit. John had it in one of his videos where he discussed other games that he saw at Gamescom, but I wanted to dig a little bit deeper with this one. I got to record footage as well. There were two different demos available. There were the opening stages that led into Blinky's boss fight with the frog, and also some more challenging stages, as they put it, with the ice levels that led into Pinky's new boss battle. So I wanted to jump into the second one where there was new content at the end. I am a fan of the original Pac-Man World 2. I have played it so much on my GameCube, and I wanted to give this a proper comparison. There'll be some footage of the original alongside my footage captured at PAX West on the show floor, but I wanted to get my thoughts out there and just compare some of the stuff I noticed between the two, give some impressions, and how I overall feel about the game. So yeah, we started off in the ice world. I think it is World 3, basically after the forest. Ice River Run, I think is the name of the stage. So in this game, I noticed right away, after going through all of the menus and controls and whatnots, that we now have a dedicated flip kick button. Before, you can only do that while in mid-air. So now you can just press the square button. I play this on the PS5. When you press the square button, you can just do an immediate flip kick on the ground. You don't have to do your butt bounce to break all the boxes or to fight all the enemies. You can just do a quick flip kick instead. You can still use the flip kick in the air, and it feels more usable now. It felt like in the original that there was just not really a wide enough hitbox to make it very viable. I ended up just skipping enemies instead, like these fish that you see jumping out of the pond. I found it easier to just ignore them rather than go out of my way to kick them. But yeah, the flip kick and options for, melee attacks now has suddenly become a lot more possible with Pac-Man in this game. Also added to his arsenal of moves, no pun intended there, is the super butt bounce. So in the original game, you could always do the butt bounce and kind of just bounce and bounce along wherever you so please. If you time it just right, at the apex of your jump, you can do a super butt bounce, which will slam the floor, it'll stun enemies around you, and it will give Pac-Man a higher jump upward after. You can use this to acquire some of the crates that are out of the way that were newly added to Repac. Now I noticed that it might be a little less usable than it was beforehand, and by that I mean in the original you could just kind of butt bounce all over the place, but in the remake, if you hit the button at the apex, as I mentioned, he'll just do a super butt bounce, which kind of interrupts the animation. It wasn't super necessary to bounce like this, but I love just having Pac-Man be my little bouncy ball. So the super version of this attack, I'm still warming up to it. There's this little visual cue that I see whenever I jump. So when this circle perfectly outlines Pac-Man, that is when you're expected to press the button to execute the super butt bounce. And I don't need this to show all the time, I realize. It's a little bit distracting, especially for how much I'm hopping around. So hopefully that is an option that you can turn off. It is cool that they have a guide here for accessibility options, but for me personally, I just prefer to just learn the timing on my own. You now have an extra pie slice of life now. So it's a little bit confusing. In the original game, you had 3 slices, or so it seemed. When you got hit a third time, you're still alive, but now there's nothing showing in your little Pac-Man pie slices. So when you get hit at this point, that's when you die, which I thought was a little bit confusing. So I think they corrected that with Repac, in which now there are 4 slices. So I'm pretty sure this is a UI correction and not them just giving you extra health in the game. Speaking of the UI, I appreciate being able to see how many fruits are in one level now. Every time you collect a fruit, you will see a tally of all the fruits that are available inside a singular level. Before, you just had to keep on collecting them until the game just told you, all melons collected, or something like that. These are the kind of quality of life improvements that I always appreciate, especially when inside the levels themselves, you can open the chest only once you've collected all of a singular fruit. Previously, it also kept track of all your pellets. But nowadays, I don't think pellets are as important as they were beforehand. Or rather, they have a new use now, because before, one of the only purposes of collecting pellets was for 100% completion, and how earning 50 would give you 1 bit of health. Just like in the first Pac-Man World Repac, you can now throw them as projectiles, or hold the button down and throw them as a bomb, which was not in the original Pac-Man World 2. Also carried over from Repac is how Pac-Man turns into a big boy when you eat a power pellet and can chomp on vulnerable ghosts. Gameplay wise, this doesn't really do anything for you functionally. You just get bigger, so you can have an easier time eating the ghosts. You'll only be able to jump and do limited platforming as this Super Pac-Man, but it's definitely a lot more fun and cohesive with the other Repac. Previously, when you had a power pellet, Pac-Man would just kind of glow gold, and that was it, really. Let's talk about the ice level itself, because, oh boy, I wonder if you remember this from the original, or if you have just blurred it out of your memory, as I once have. The ice physics, they have been changed. It used to be much more slippery in the original, like, to the point where sometimes it just felt unplayable. So Pac-Man has these certain physics and momentum to his movements every time that he jumps and lands on the ice. And if you jump a certain way, if you land or run on it for too long, he will enter a slip and slidey animation where you can't do anything for a couple of seconds. Heaven forbid if you're standing near a pool of water. If you fall into the ice water, you have to go back to the checkpoints and do it all over again. These physics were somewhat countered by the rev roll, which is pretty much this game's spin dash. You could use the rev roll to scale slopes and whatnot, but once you exit it, you're on your own. There were moments in which I was trying so hard to jump up onto a ledge that felt a little curved, and unfairly so, because I could not get onto this ledge or onto this iceberg or to this piece of rock. Anything that had these ice physics was a miserable time. But thankfully, they have adjusted that to an extent in Repac, to the point where you can at least somewhat moderately platform with some ability and control of your movements. In both games, whenever you do a butt bounce right on the ice, you will enter the said slipping animation, which is fair. I mean, this is ice. You can't really have any traction on this, but having absolutely no traction at all, that was just not fun, man. That was driving me up the wall. And I noticed just how much that was keeping me from 100%ing this stage in the original compared to just, breezing through in the Repac. There's still a couple of specific spots in Repac where they tell you to use the rev roll to go uphill on the ice, but it's not as egregiously annoying and bad in this game as it was in the original Pac-Man World 2. So yeah, very nice to see that even the physics themselves has been improved in places. There is just a lot of quality of life improvements in general. The range in which you can pick up the fruits and the pellets feels like they've been increased just a little bit. In the original, you had to be super specific as far as collecting pellets, especially ones in the air. Oh my goodness, within this same level, there are some pellets that are like in an arc, so like you can just jump to platform to platform and you would normally just collect them, right? But because that little hitbox is so teeny tiny, you have to get it very specifically, to the point where I was hopping back and forth on the same iceberg to get one pellet, and sometimes falling into the water because it just would not register, and I was trying to do it a little bit differently. I could not get the hang of it in some cases until I just feel like I got lucky. There were fish hopping back and forth. That wasn't making it easier. That was not a fun time. It was not a fun time, basically. But it feels like just even that little bit of an extended range to pick up the items like the pellets is just so much more helpful. And it helps that, you don't even need the pellets to do 100% completion anymore anyways. They're just kind of your projectiles now. So that also just kind of solved the problem from the root anyways. And yeah, speaking of projectiles, you learn to kick back projectiles in Repac, making the flip kick a lot more important than in the original. While you're traversing the Ice River Run in the remake, there are some enemies throwing these green bombs at you, and you are expected to learn to kick them back, because you're going to need that in the next stage. Oh yeah, there's also the extra mazes. When you collect the Galaxian in the original, you automatically went to the bonus maze in the middle of the level, but this time a prompt shows up to tell you that a new maze has been unlocked, and you can go and do those whenever you want now instead. I think they're available at the arcade. I'm pretty sure. I think they left the arcade mostly untouched from the original, which I'm really happy about. And I think the final thing worth discussing is Pinky herself. The boss fight is entirely different. This boss fight originally was pretty much a reskin version of the previous boss fight from the forest area. It was pretty much just a giant ghost machine that you had to rev roll and attack from ramps or attack the top of the head with a butt bounce. And they kind of just reskinned that into an ice version in the original. But here, they actually give Pinky a whole new boss battle. There's new dialogue, there's a whole bunch of conversing back and forth with one another. Did I even mention the voice? Pac-Man, listen, he has the same voice as from all the way back in Pac-Man World 3. The fact that he has stayed that consistent in the new trilogy, you know what, that makes me happy. It's fine with me. It may not be the voice that I first expect to hear to come out of Pac-Man, but you know what, we're sticking to our guns. We're staying the course. But anyway, that's enough of the voice. Pinky herself, the battle is entirely new. She now has this mechanical polar bear. She goes sliding down a slope where you have to dodge the trees that are falling, different missiles being shot out at you, and when you get to the very end, you actually fight the polar bear itself. It's still not exactly the hardest fight in the world, but you do utilize the fact that you need to redirect these green bombs thrown to attack and hurt Pinky in the first place. And even just this right here, it really makes me confident that they're going to embrace the new mechanics, the new quality of life features they had, and still implement that into new bits of gameplay, new boss fights, new areas. For crying out loud, we're gonna have a crossover with Sonic the Hedgehog. That's amazing. I cannot wait for the Green Hill Zone. But yeah, I feel like the game feels and looks excellent. There's a lot of that GameCube jank from the original that I had to deal with while recording this footage that I don't remember ever seeing or feeling in the Repac version. Sometimes you do the rev roll on the rams and it doesn't really work. Sometimes you bounce away from them and they still hurt you. In the original Pac-Man World 2, it felt more responsive in this one. Like enemies have a health meter, and also just other UI changes too. I am still annoyed that when you collect power pellets in the remake, they show you like a number 5 or like, you know, your score going up. I don't really need to have those numbers pop up. I know it's supposed to replicate the arcadey feel, but like unless you're a JRPG, I don't really need to see numbers pop up. It doesn't give me that kind of serotonin. So hopefully some of these options are available to toggle in the options menu. It's not a deal breaker if you can't turn them off. It's just my own personal preference. Oh, and the shrink power came back too. I forgot that this was in the original. I barely remember ever seeing it or utilized at all. Usually just to go from one area to the next, but hopefully they do some interesting things with it in Pac-Man World 2 Repac. I love it when a game makes you really tiny and it recontextualizes the area that you're inside of. Man, I waited a very long time to play this demo, like maybe 2 hours in line on the last day of PAX when I thought it was going to be the least full. Xeon was with me too. He was just kind of popping in and out of the line. He went to play Digimon, which had like 8 booths, and Pac-Man World 2 had 4 booths. This line was hours long. Digimon was like a 15-minute wait or less. I think they underestimated just how popular Pac-Man was going to be at the show floor. After we finished the demo, we got tote bags, and within those tote bags were cup noodles. Yeah, you know, I'm not sure why, but Namco and Pac-Man, they teamed up with Maruchan, and inside of every bag, there were 2 cups of instant noodles. You know, I'm not a marketing genius or anything, but I feel like they could have done something with, like, I don't know, fruit, something that Pac-Man consumes. I don't know why they crossed over with Maruchan noodles of all things, but okay. Could have been giving out apples on the show floor, you know? But then again, fruit is perishable, while cup noodles would last and survive the apocalypse, so like, what would I know? But that's going to be all for now. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about Pac-Man World 2 Repac. It is coming out very soon. I am excited to play this. It's going to be coming to Switch 2 as well. I think I'll be getting it for Switch 2 because I just want to relive seeing my boy Pac-Man on a Nintendo console once again. And one of my favorite platformers with the guy. And yeah, I was just really happy to play this and a bunch of other games and catch up with friends and whatnots. PAX West is always a lot of fun. Arlo was able to ferry me back and forth around Seattle to various places. That was very kind of him. I can confirm that despite being a little blue monster, he can in fact reach the wheel and the pedals of his car. It was very impressive. Got to hang out with Xeon some more. Xeon knows a lot of people. I don't know if it's just because of being affiliated with Nintendo Life. I'm sure that does help, but I aspire to be as well networked and connected as he is. I also got him a copy of Mario Paint. That was a very special moment, and I'm glad I was able to do that. I really hope he finds something obscene on that cartridge. And for the last few nights, we all just kind of crashed and terrorized Ant Dude. I really hope that he has gotten enough sleep by now. I feel bad. But yeah, we met so many people over the weekend within the industry. We had a GVG meetup and a whole bunch of fun things. It was really great to see you if you all came out. I'm very thankful for anyone that comes by and say hello. It warms my cold, icy heart to be recognized like that. But that's all for now. I just wanted to reminisce just a little bit. But stay tuned to GVG for more little previews, topics, discussions, and impressions just like this one. Alright everyone, take care of yourselves till we meet again.